Welcome to the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. My name is Rob Murgatroyd, and I'm a former doctor turned lifestyle entrepreneur. Each week, I interview some of the best minds on the planet on the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. Come take this journey with me. Excuses are over. It's time to live.
The thing for music with me is that it's connection. And that's kind of a thread with moving into what I do now, which is coaching. I connect with people. And I used to do it through music, and now I do it through personal development and podcast and coaching and things like that. Everything comes down to mindset. And I know that's like, I've heard people talk about how mindset is this buzzword in the personal development industry, and it's a buzzword for a reason. The most important part. Really, it's all about connection, whether that's through coaching or through a melody or through an energetic, authentic live performance. It's about that connection.
Okay, before we jump into this interview, I want to invite you to be considered for my 2019 Traveling Mastermind. So go to workhardplayhardmastermind.com and fill out the application, and we'll jump on a call to see if you're a great fit. This year, we'll be in Boston doing lots of cool things like training with Tom Brady's trainer, Alex Guerrero. In the middle of the year, we'll be heading to Monaco doing things like vintage car rides through the French Riviera. And then we're going to wrap the year in Florence, Italy, doing things like truffle hunting and hot air ballooning over Florence. Look, life is all about fulfillment, and I really try and walk the walk. So if you are looking to be part of our tribe of 28 high-achieving entrepreneurs that are in the 6- and 7-figure range, fill out your application at workhardplayhardmastermind.com to be considered. So think of the mastermind as having two parts. The first is the trip itself, and the second part is what goes on over the 4 days within the mastermind. Our group of 28 entrepreneurs will help you brainstorm and accelerate what you want to achieve in 2019. And we'll do that through a variety of different exercises, brainstorming activities, breakout sessions, goal-setting sessions. You know the drill. So go to workhardplayhardmastermind.com, fill out an application, and we'll jump on a call to see if you're a fit. All right, let's jump into today's episode. What's up, everybody? This is Rob Murgatroyd, and welcome to another episode of the Work Hard, Play Hard show. This episode features Preston Pugmire. You can find him on Instagram and elsewhere at Preston Pugmire. So I wanted to have Preston on the show because he's figured out how to become a super successful entrepreneur, coaching the top 1% of the best while remaining a devoted dad and husband. Sit back and relax and enjoy this outstanding interview with Preston Pugmire. Preston, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's good. It's good to be here.
You know what, man? I am super pumped because today I get to turn the tables on you and interview you instead of the other way around like we did on your podcast. So welcome to the show officially.
Thank you so much, man. It's exciting. We do this in the same week. We interview each other. It's good.
I know. Here's what I think we should do. I think we should kind of chunk the show into 3 parts. I think the first one we'll do is we'll talk about the science of achievement and maybe how you help people gain clarity on what they want in business and in life. And then in the second part, we'll talk about the art of fulfillment and maybe some things that you do personally to increase your level of fulfillment. And then we'll wrap with some rapid fire questions. Cool?
I am all in.
All right. So I think a great jumping off place would be to maybe start with religion. Everybody says you got to talk about religion and politics, right? So we're going to start right there. Can you maybe paint a picture for us of what it was like growing up in Rexburg, Ohio, where the
Idaho,
not Ohio. Idaho.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say where the entire town is almost 100%, maybe 95% Mormon. So in other words, what was your world like, let's say, from ages 10 to 15 in that town? And maybe you can kind of compare it to how that's different for you now, if it is.
Well, I mean, I still live in Rexburg, Idaho, but I have the difference between me at 10 and 15 versus now is that I've been all around North America and all. I spent so much time traveling the country, and I've seen so many different things, and I've been exposed to so many different things. And so I guess the difference now is just that I have more to draw on, just like anybody. But it's really interesting that you start with this. I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Our nickname is Mormons, but I never lead with that, like ever, because people have this idea, even now, like people listening to this podcast, they have this idea of what somebody who's religious is or what somebody who's a member of this church is. And I feel like I don't get a fair shot before somebody like judges me on that way. You know what I mean? But it is a big part of my life and a big part of my family. I'll tell you this. Growing up, I actually served a 2-year mission for the church, and I served in Los Angeles, California, and I got offered drugs more times as a missionary for the church than I did when I was in my high school, like going through high school. So that's like kind of paint the picture of, you can draw your own conclusions there for what that looks like. But I actually loved growing up here, and I love living here. It's such a quaint little town. I love traveling. I love performing and coaching and doing all the things that I do as I travel around to different areas. But I like living here because I go to the grocery store and like I know everybody. There's this kind of quaint hometown feel. But honestly, I don't know how much longer I'll live here because it's so cold. It's just so cold, man. And so
I want to dig in a little bit, if you're cool with it. I want to talk a little bit more about religion, and here's why. So I've interviewed Lewis Howes about his religion. He was raised Christian Science. Mm-hmm. And I've interviewed Lori Harder about hers, and she was raised Jehovah's Witness. And sometimes in religions, and I'm going to do the best I can not to be politically incorrect. And if I am, you can just feel free to just, tell me to go scratch somewhere. But I just want to make sure that, I'm understanding how this has impacted your life. Because, let's be honest, if you're somebody who's raised on the West Coast in Idaho, in a town that's 95% Mormon, your frame of reference is going to be radically different than mine growing up in, Queens, New York, in, a Catholic, Italian, my mom's Italian environment. So I really think that informs sort of who we are, and it's interesting to me when you say that, you go to LA and you're getting people that are, asking you for drugs, and that must have been, radically foreign for you. So like, how do you think that, being a Mormon has shaped how you're looking at things now in your life? In other words, are you because you're still in the same town and everyone around you is a Mormon, do you feel like you're in a fishbowl and you can't see the difference? Or having gone away, you can see, wow, this is like the way we do things here is very, very differently than the way, people around the country do things.
Well, I mean, I feel like I was in a fishbowl, and I feel like, honestly, if you grow up in Queens and you never, ever leave Queens, then you're in that fishbowl. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody is in these different little pockets, even though the fishbowls are so different from each other. But I definitely had my eyes kind of like open to how other people did things when I went and lived in Los Angeles for 2 years. I actually spoke Vietnamese, and I served and taught the gospel to the Vietnamese people in Los Angeles. And so that was even so much different from Western culture. And it's just fascinating learning about those different cultures, different religions. The majority of them are Buddhist, and they have the Eastern frame of mindset and all those different things. And so I was exposed to a lot of that. But I think the thing that really, really made the biggest difference for me is right after I got married 10 years ago, I decided that I wanted to be a successful musician. And I found this path, which was college and university touring. And I was actually really successful in that, became the top booked musical act in the country for university and colleges. And it was really, really awesome. So over the course of like 4 years, I played 500 or 600 colleges or universities all around the country. And me and my wife just got in a car and drove. So we put 200,000 miles on the car in just like 3 years and visited 46 states and played, 600 shows. And every single town that we would go to, we would ask the people, what do I need to do to experience this town? And it was everything from, you need to go to this restaurant, or you need to go to this like club to see this band, or you need to go to, there's like this little train car elevator that goes up the side of this mountain. Every little thing in different little towns and in big towns too. We just experienced the country. I think that is the main thing that just shifted my perspective. With talking to so many people, we would have dinner with somebody every single night from the university. And so you're sitting down every single night for 4 years with somebody else and gaining all these different perspectives. And one of the things that my religion and my church really, really hammers in to our brains and our spirits is that every single person is your brother and sister. Every single person, regardless of their background, regardless of their religion, we are all brothers and sisters. And so that framework allows me to approach this entire process from a judgment-free zone. Man, we're all brothers and sisters. We have these different backgrounds, but we have this commonality because we're all children of God. And so from that space, I can look at somebody with love from the jump. And I feel like that is one of my favorite things and one of the most important things that I learned in my religion growing up. And it really set the tone for what I do now with connection through coaching and through mindset shifting and all those different things when I work with entrepreneurs, because I can approach every single thing with love and instead of judgment.
What I wanted to talk to you about was you got your first guitar at 15. And that sort of led into you becoming more involved in like alternative rock bands, et cetera. Can you tell me about the moment you got your first guitar?
I got a guitar because of my dad. So my parents split when I was like 8 or 9. And then when I was 14 or 15, my dad decided that he was going to learn how to play the guitar because he just wanted something new to do and stuff. And I saw that, and my dad is my hero. And so I was like, I want to be like him. So I asked for a guitar for my birthday too. And we started playing together. We were actually in a band together for a while. And that was really fun. But because I had more time and because I had a younger, pliable mind, I don't know, I really had just kind of like a natural tendency for music. And I surpassed him very quickly with skill levels on the guitar. And I started playing all the time with my friends. And then I got into Radiohead and Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana. And I got these books that taught me how to play their songs. And all of a sudden, it just became my entire world. And I remember one very, very specific moment. This will date me too, but I had a subscription to a VHS cassette delivery system that every month they would send you a VHS that had the top 10 music videos for alternative rock, and you would watch it on your VCR. It's just, like that concept is just going to blow people's minds if they're under the age of 25. And I remember watching this video, and it was of Radiohead's Just, and the music video for that and the song. I watched it and I seriously got excited and mad at the same time. I was excited because I was aware of it and it just lit me up. And I was a little bit mad because I was like, nobody told me about this. I didn't even know that this existed in the world. And I had to seek it out from like the back of a magazine catalog. And I had this transcendent moment where I became part of the music and it just really connected with me. And I thought, if I can be a part of this for somebody else, that's what I want to do. This moment of like just getting lit up about something. And so I started writing songs and I started performing all the time. And the thing for music with me is that it's connection. And that's kind of a thread with moving into what I do now, which is, coaching. I connect with people. And I used to do it through music, and now I do it through personal development and podcast and coaching and things like that. But when I played the guitar and I connected with an audience, there's nothing better than that, man. I absolutely just thrive in that environment.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, because I can't even play the drums. Like, I can't even bang. Like, I don't have that skill set. And this is not for lack of trying. I mean, I really, really wanted to. And, I'll tell you something. For a while, as a kind of a creative outlet, I decided I wanted to get into DJing. And
that's right. Yeah.
And that sort of led into music production for me. And if you don't know where middle C is on a piano, then you're not going to be producing anything. And because I didn't take time as a kid, my parents didn't encourage it. I didn't get some basic musical, training and background. And so as an adult in my, late 40s, trying to understand how to do this was not easy at all. So I strongly encourage parents listening to get their kids into music and at least expose them so that they can have the gift that you have now. You agree, right?
Yeah, I love playing music, and I'm really good at it. I love writing songs, and I love just playing live in front of people. I don't do it very often anymore, but it's my first love, honestly.
It's a rush, I bet. So you were in bands like ATM, National Holiday. Did any of that create a conflict for you, either in terms of your faith or in terms of, how you should be viewed? Was there ever a point where it was like, being in a rock band is not consistent with the identity, which is, you and I talked about identity, right? Were you having, any issues like that for you?
That's such a fascinating question. And yeah, I was in rock bands and punk bands and stuff, but the way that we acted was still in alignment with the values of the church, and our lyrics were always in alignment with the values of the church. And so we were not Christian rock bands. We were not Christian punk bands, but it just wasn't out of alignment. And so the thing that was a struggle for me as far as identity goes was not being in the bands or being involved in music, but it was thinking that I could do that as a career. I think the thing that was most dissonant within my spirit was this idea that was somehow not in alignment with what it meant to be a husband and a father. And when I shed that, and it was difficult, man, because it's like shifting my identity. When I shed that and decided that not only was it possible, but it was that it could be in alignment with my values, 6 months later, I was the number one booked act in the country on the university and college circuit. Like, it happened so quickly when I just decided that I didn't need that identity anymore. And that to me was my first experience with the law of attraction and identity shift and mindset. And it set the tone for everything.
So you're still in Rexburg now, and you have two children.
Yes.
How has your music background impacted the kind of work that you're doing now?
I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I think that it has to do with connection. And the way that the things that I'm doing now, it was like a transition. I started out, just playing music solo. So I wasn't in bands anymore after I got married. It was just me and an acoustic guitar and a looping pedal. And I continued to play music, but then we had children. Intentionally, like we said, decided, okay, we're going to start a family 6 years after we were married. And when we did that, I took my shows and intentionally cut them in half. I started to find less and less fulfillment in just performing, like only doing that night after night. And I wanted to travel less. And so I started actually just kind of toying with speaking in my shows. Like, I would talk about personal development. I would talk about, like, for example, I have a song that I wrote about my journey through my parents' divorce, my journey through emotionally kind of dealing with the fallout of that. And I wrote this song, and then I would tell this story on stage and invite people to recognize that things that they have gone through, no matter what it is, but if it has been emotionally, traumatic for them, that they can come out the other side having learned an important lesson. And that was kind of the message of the song. And I started talking about that. And I realized that when people would come up to me and talk to me after the show, it started to be less and less about music and more about my message. Then from there, I started creating actual keynote addresses around mindset and around communication. I started presenting those at for university students, but also for corporations and companies, and then youth leadership organizations and things like that. And then I would use my music to support the principles. And so it ended up becoming like 50 minutes of those personal development principles, and then 15 minutes of music interspersed throughout the presentation. And then I just started doing more and more of those. And then it just lent itself to launching a podcast. And then it lent itself to doing coaching. And it was like this kind of transition. And now when I do keynote addresses for corporations or things like that, I will still bring my guitar and I talk about these other principles of mindset before strategy, but I do it in kind of the context of music because that's my background. So that's kind of how it shaped everything that I'm doing now. But really, it's all about connection, whether that's through coaching or through a melody or through an energetic, authentic live performance. It's about that connection.
Part of one of the things that you're doing is you're helping people free themselves from shame and guilt and perfectionism. Were there any particular experiences that maybe you're willing to share where you felt shame and guilt and perfectionism, and maybe describe how you got through it?
That's a great question. I'll talk about this, and this is not about necessarily shame, but it's perfectionism and guilt. When I had children, so my first child, he actually, today is his birthday. We're having his birthday party after this conversation. He's 5 today. And when I had my first child, Quincy, he just changed my life in so many amazing ways. But this is what I found with perfectionism and guilt. I wanted to be the best dad, right? Everybody does. And I had this idea of what that had to look like. And if I wasn't perfect at that, then that would bring the guilt. And one of the things that wasn't involved in the idea of being a perfect dad was traveling so much. And so I would feel this guilt about traveling. And after a couple years, I recognized this in myself. I had this actual really, really specific moment where I was thinking, I used to make a lot of money playing music, and it's just like an abundance of money. It was phenomenal. And then right now, I'm not making that much money. And I was thinking about what is the difference? And I was going over a bunch of different things. And then I came to the conclusion that, oh my gosh, it's kids. And it wasn't that children meant that I couldn't make money or that I needed to spend money on them. It was the idea that I had to be a quote unquote provider. And I had this messed up version in my brain of what that meant. And I took myself through this process that I call the rabbit hole of meaning, where you take a situation and then you go down the rabbit hole into the core of what you have made it mean, the meaning that you've attached to it. And I realized that I had attached the meaning of being a good dad to anxiety about providing. And that doesn't make any sense when you say it out loud, but this is what I did. I said, okay, I have anxiety about providing for my kids because I just, got to put food on the table, right? That old adage. And I have anxiety about that. And that anxiety makes me feel like I'm concerned. And if I'm concerned, then I'm going to work hard. And if I work hard, I'm going to provide, and then I'll feel like a good dad. But all of it is tied to the original anxiety. And I was like, oh my gosh. So my subconscious is telling me, Preston, you want to feel like a good dad? Well, here you go. Here's some anxiety because that's going to be the trigger for it. And that's going to come with guilt. And so I was like, that's just effing ridiculous. And so when I kind of exposed it for what it was, I was able to intentionally shift it and bring it into my consciousness rather than my subconscious, and then shift it to, I'm going to attach piece to me being concerned, then to me providing, then to me working hard, then to me being a good dad. And I want to be a good dad. So how about I have intentional, active peace trigger that? And dude, Rob, when I made that decision, within 3 weeks, boom, I had tripled my income within 3 weeks. And it was just fascinating to me. And so I have found that people like my clients and myself, we have this idea of what we should do versus what we want to do. And if those things are out of alignment, then I and people that I coach, use either anxiety or guilt as the bridge to get from what we want to do to what we should do. And so we can have the best of both worlds, and we use anxiety and guilt as the bridge. And that's what I was doing. And when I shed that, everything changed for me.
Oh, that's so amazing. I want to talk about goals now. After you kind of get through, shame and guilt and perfectionism like you're talking about, then, we've cleared the way to talk and help people accomplish their goals. So everybody has a different way of goal setting. Everybody's got a kind of a different angle on how they do it. What's the playbook for you in your minds, proper goal setting and maybe sort of the lens through how you coach people to set goals?
For me, everything comes down to mindset. And I know that that's like, I've heard people talk about how like mindset is this buzzword in the personal development industry. And I think it's a buzzword for a reason, the most important part. And so it's clarity first. And so get clarity on exactly what it is you want. And then from there, recognize that the reason that you don't have that right now is because of some sort of subconscious block about something in your mindset. It's a core identity. It's a core belief. It's a limitation. And I call it the emergency brake. Like if you're driving a car and it's just not going as fast as you want it to, so you're like, oh, maybe I need to fill it up with gas. You need to fill it up with gas. Same thing. Maybe I need to, all these different things. You can check the brakes. You can check the engine. You can do all this stuff. And you get the car running tip-top shape, but that e-brake is fully engaged. You're not going to be able to drive the car. And so many people don't want to take a look at what's really going on, like the actual thing that is blocking them. And so when you take a look at that, like for me with the anxiety was attached to being a good dad, then I was able to just release the emergency brake. And then the same amount of effort, which is you're up, pushing the gas, the same amount of effort yields a completely different result. And so for me, I talk to people about goal setting in the context of, okay, what do you want? Okay, now let's go through what are your beliefs about your value as far as it relates to that. And people call it the upper limit principle or, limiting beliefs or, there's all these different ways to talk about it. But bottom line, if you don't genuinely believe that it's possible for you, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's just really about gaining the clarity that you need to be able to move forward. So are there any particular examples that you can think of, or maybe just some approaches that you remember that have helped coach you through some difficult times or different experiences when you were, perhaps not at the peak of confidence or when you were suffering hardships?
It's so simple, but I mean, I hired, Tommy Baker. I hired him as my personal coach. And one thing he had me do, which is so simple, but I just didn't do it up until that point, was write down a list of, 25, 35 big wins that you have had in the last year, in the last 12 months. And I don't know, I had this idea that would make me feel conceited or something like that. And that's just ridiculous. And so when I did that, it became this big, huge list of evidence that I can just draw on to support the fact that I can accomplish my goals. And he did this really, really cool thing. And I do it with my clients. I do it with me now. When you say like your top 3 or 4 biggest accomplishments that you've had in the last year, and then go back 2-3 years and think to yourself, 2-3 years ago, did you even think that these things were possible for you? And most often the answer is no. And so if you didn't think they were possible for you, and now they're not just a possibility, they're in the past as a reality that you've already accomplished, then that tells you, and you can really get it imbued into your mind and into your heart, that the things that you are about to do that seem impossible, that one day, very, very shortly, they will just be your norm and your actual reality. And then it gives you this confidence. And so it's such a simple thing, but I don't think that people do it often enough. Really, really use their wins, their recent wins, as evidence that they can just do the next thing.
I love that. Make a list, a nice, simple list of 25 things that you've accomplished that really, really have moved the needle for you.
Yeah.
And it creates sort of a little... a reframe, that's the word. A little reframe. I love it. Okay, so let's move into the play hard part of the show. This is more about the art of fulfillment. And I want to talk about some things maybe that you do that help you improve areas that are outside of business. What does a typical Saturday morning look like for you?
Saturday morning, man, I love getting my kids up. I have a 5-year-old now, Quincy, and then I have a 2-year-old daughter named Beatrix. And one of my favorite things to do on Saturday mornings is get up and go get a donut. It's just a simple thing, but they think that it's, friggin' Christmas morning when they get to just go and pick out their very own donut, no matter anything, all the sprinkles, all the whatever. And then they just get to sit and it's their own. Because, I don't give them a donut every single day, but just Saturday mornings, they get to just eat this. And I just love being with happy children. And so
I love that.
There's nothing like it, man. And whether that means creating we do pillow forts in the living room all the time. Anytime, I want to be fun dad. Now I understand that means, or that's not always possible because that they get to have boundaries and stuff like that. But anytime they say, hey, can we build a fort? I'm always a yes. Like, I will stop what I'm doing and we will build a fort because, dude, it takes 48 seconds and they just love it for the rest of the day. So we do pillow forts. We'll flip the couch up on its side and put a blanket over it. And I want to be in relationship where it's a yes, like yes to the world with my children. Yes to possibilities. What can you create? What can you dream? What can you achieve? I love doing those type of things.
Love it. If you can live anywhere in the world for a month, where would it be and why?
Oh, man. I would say Grand Cayman, man. We went there for a honeymoon and it was just a magical place. Like, there's a reason that people go on vacation there and stuff like that. I know that you live this jet set life and I'm on my way there, but I loved being in Grand Cayman. That to me was so, so fun. So I'd like to go live there for a month.
Yeah. Listen, jet set life is great. It's fun. It's amazing. But there are pockets of places that, people would be shocked that I love that have nothing to do with being jet set. So you love what you love, because it puts you in the place that you need to be in. So I love that answer. Grand Cayman's is awesome. What is the one thing that your soul has been really calling you to do, but for whatever reason, you just haven't been able to pull the trigger on it? And you're like, damn, I really want to do this, but I just haven't done it.
Write a book. I'm writing a book. I've been talking about that I'm writing a book for months now. And the truth is that I am collecting a bunch of bullet points and ideas and putting them into a Google Doc. And I call it writing a book, but let's be honest, it's not yet. And so I really, really want to write a book called Mindset Before Strategy. And I already bought the domain and everything like that because I genuinely feel that is the path. Because if you don't have, for me in my life and for all the people that I've ever worked with, if you don't have the right mindset to back it up, the strategy will either not work for you or won't be sustainable. And so that's not in alignment with the art of fulfillment. And so I want to just take all of my experiences with personal development and with creating a business, not just like a successful music business, but a 6-figure coaching business and all these different things, and put them into an outlined thing that you can buy on Amazon. I really, really want to do that. I've been feeling called to do that. And then I haven't pulled the trigger on it.
Love it. If you find yourself uninspired, you mentioned what Tommy Baker recommended for you, but if you find yourself uninspired, other than looking at that list, what sorts of things do you do that help you find your way back?
For me, I will sit, and with no agenda, you know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily meditation, but I'll just sit and be like, okay, I'm going to shut down all the tabs in my head because I got so many tabs open all the time. I shut down all the tabs and I'm just going to be for just a minute in silence. And I'll have one question and it's not always the same question. It's like, okay, what do I need to allow in my life? What do I know I need to experience? Dude, this is it. This is one of the things that really, really gets me. And I do this with my clients too. But for me, I got this from the book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And you just sit in silence and you ask yourself this one question, and you're not allowed to talk until you have taken 3 big, huge breaths. Like, don't even jump the gun. And you take an elevator from your brain. I take an elevator from my brain through my neck, down into my chest, right next to my heart. And I originate the thoughts from my heart instead of my brain. And I just listen instead of think. I just listen. And I ask myself this question: what's really going on? That's it. It's so effing simple. But if you shut down all the tabs and don't allow yourself to really say anything or write anything or talk or anything until you've taken 3 huge breaths, and you take that elevator down and you just ask yourself, what's really going on here?
That's a really good one. I'm stealing that.
Do it, man. Take it. Because you'll find this. I know, but I just either don't want to admit it, or I am so clouded by all these things that I feel like I should be doing or whatever. And you just break it down, man. Just simplicity.
Well, what's really going on helps you get through the bullshit.
Exactly. Yeah, totally, man. And there's what's really going on means there's nowhere to hide, because you can't use excuses. You can't use all these other different things that we've decided are important that are really masking what's really going on. And so you cut through it all, man, and you can't hide.
Well, what's amazing about that for me is that the word really implies that what you're saying is going on isn't. So when you say to yourself, what's really going on?
Yeah.
Then your brain goes, oh, you want the truth, huh? Okay.
We're doing that.
We're going to do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What restaurants, if you had to go and have your last meal, where would your last meal be?
Do you know what? I just love going to Brazilian churrascarias where they bring the meat out on the swords and you have the hourglass that's either red or green. You familiar with this?
I have pounded away many churrascarias. Yes.
Good. Yeah. So there's one. I mean, they're all over the place, but I really like this one called Rodizio Grill, and you just throw that hourglass on green and just let the meat come to you, and the grilled pineapple and everything like that. I just love that restaurant, man. Love it.
Absolutely love it. Okay, so we're going to hit our third part of the show, which is the rapid fire round. Answer as quickly or as slowly as you would like. It is basically a first thing that comes to mind rounds. What would your friends say is one of your superpowers?
That's a great question. The reason I laugh at that is my best friend, Jake Ballantyne, I asked him that specific question recently. I said, hey, what would you say is my superpower? So I love that. And his response that he gave was, Preston, you can take a principle or a situation that you are observing from somebody else and boil it down to actual core, simple, like wording and concepts so that they can understand it in a simple way. And so that's what I'd say.
Love it. Love it. What's one of the things you're afraid of right now?
I'm afraid of stepping into my actual power about what I can do as a coach and as somebody who leads events. And the reason I'm hesitating is because I have been thinking about this so much this last week. And it's just so, like, I get frustrated with myself because I buy into these limitations and these excuses. And I know that I can create just incredible things. And I already have. But I have this kind of nagging, it's Jess Lively talks about it in the context of your ego's favorite chew toy. Like if the ego is a dog, it'll just always go back to this one chew toy and it'll always chew on this right here. And for me, my ego's favorite chew toy is the fear that more success will equal more responsibility. And I won't be able to live up to that. And I have to, like, that's for me, it's something that I just have to consistently and constantly remind myself that it's not a real fear unless I make it a real fear. And so I can just let that go.
Love that. You gaining clarity there.
Mm-hmm.
What do people never ask you, but you wish they did?
Who's your favorite WWE superstar? No, nobody ever asks me that. And it's just like, I don't know, man. I feel like they deserve to know, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. What book have you re-listened to the most or reread?
It's probably a toss-up between 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey and You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero.
She's so good. Love her.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you should probably throw out, but you never will?
I have a woodworking piece. It's a joiner that I bought, and it's in my garage, and I should probably throw it out. But
you never will.
Dude, yeah.
I love it. Okay, and then the last question is we're going to change it up a little bit. What one question would you like to ask me?
I would like to ask you, well, I mean, I asked you a bunch of questions just earlier this week, so let me think. Okay, how about this? I would like your listeners to hear the answer to this question that I did ask you, because I've been thinking about this so much. And it is, I asked you, what is the thing that you feel like you're going to need to leave behind in 2019 as you move into 2020?
Yeah, I have the answer to it. I didn't have the answer to it when I spoke to you the other day, but I have the answer to it now, and that is the belief that I belong. So it's kind of to your point a minute ago where you were talking about, there was some anxiety or fear stepping into your power. Paraphrasing what you said, but you get the idea. For me, it is because I'm entering into a new world now. Podcast is growing quite a bit. The mastermind is filling up. I'm on bigger stages, let's say. And there's a little doubt that starts to creep in. Do I belong here? Like, am I really the guy, imposter syndrome? So what I'm letting go is the belief that I don't belong anywhere. And wherever I want to be, I belong. So anytime that thing creeps in, I just say to myself, I belong here.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful.
I love it. Well, listen, man, this has been a fun hour. I really appreciate everything. Is there any final words, suggestions, or an ask for the people that are listening?
Dude, I want you to listen to my podcast. It's called Next Level Life, and it is personal development for entrepreneurs and getting into what it really takes to level up your mindset so that you can level up your business. And the thing that I love about podcast is things like this. You get to have these incredible conversations, and then you just talk on a microphone and thousands of people listen to you, and it's rad. Something that I didn't really talk about as we as we had our interview, is when I launched my podcast, it was probably the biggest jump I've ever taken as far as creating a space to accomplish your goals and then willing it into being. I told people a month before I launched that I was going to debut at number 1 in the world on iTunes. And people were like a little worried for me. And it was, they're like, dude, I don't want you to let yourself down there. You're getting in there with some big fish. And I never didn't think that was going to happen. I just didn't. So in my category of personal development on iTunes, I mean, it's friggin' people like Lewis Howes, Oprah, Gretchen Rubin, they're all in this category. And I knew that it was possible. And so I created it. And I actually debuted at number 1 in the world on launch day. And the podcast has been just my favorite thing because it leads to all the other things. And so I love it when people listen to it, man. And I know that you have a successful podcast, and I'm honored to be able to be on here and talk to you. And yeah, podcasting's so great, man.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And we're going to link all that up in the show notes. Well, Preston, thank you so much. And as we are recording this, it is the holiday time of the year, and I wish you and your wife and beautiful children nothing but happy holidays.
You too, my brother.
All right. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode and you know someone that needs some help in either stepping up their work hard game or their play hard game, it would mean the world to me if you shared this podcast with them to help me get this movement out there. So if you like what you heard, head on over to iTunes, take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, and I will be forever grateful. So until the next episode, excuses are over. It's time to live.